The command deck of the starship Meridian fell silent as Captain Marcus Thompson removed his tactical vest with deliberate, measured movements. The weight of the reinforced plating hit the metal floor with a resonant clang that seemed to echo through the bridge for far longer than physics should have allowed. Commander Lisa Hayes, the ship's elven tactical officer, stood frozen beside her console, her pointed ears twitching slightly as she processed what she had just witnessed. Her silver eyes, normally sharp and calculating, now held something that looked dangerously close to regret. "You think we're monsters," Marcus had said quietly, his voice carrying none of the heat that Lisa's accusation had contained. "You think humanity's capacity for violence makes us no better than the Dominion forces we're fighting." The alien, woman at the communication station, Lieutenant Janet Cole of the Andromedan delegation, watched the exchange with growing unease. Her blue-tinged skin had paled to an almost translucent shade, and her large dark eyes darted between the two officers as the tension in the room became nearly suffocating. Lisa's words had been precise, cutting, delivered with the cold efficiency that made her such an effective tactical officer. She had called humanity's military doctrine barbaric and unnecessarily brutal. She had questioned whether humans were truly any different from the enemy they claimed to fight against. Most damning of all, she had suggested that perhaps the galaxy would be safer if humanity simply stayed in their own corner of space. Now, as Marcus began removing the rest of his combat gear piece by piece, Lisa found herself reconsidering every word. "Sir," Janet said softly, her voice carrying the musical undertones common to her species, "perhaps we should discuss this privately." Marcus shook his head, his movements never stopping as he continued to disarm himself. The plasma rifle came next, carefully placed on the deck with the same respect he had shown for the armor. "No, Lieutenant. Commander Hayes has made her position clear. She believes that human military tactics are too aggressive, too violent for civilized society." The elven commander opened her mouth to speak, but Marcus continued before she could form the words. "She's not wrong," he said, removing his sidearm and placing it beside the rifle. "Humans do fight differently than most species. We're willing to take casualties that would break other races. We're willing to make sacrifices that others would consider unthinkable." Lieutenant Cole stepped forward slightly, her concern evident. In the 6 months since the Joint Task Force had been formed, she had come to respect both officers immensely. The humans' tactical brilliance had saved their fleet countless times, while the elf's strategic mind had prevented numerous diplomatic disasters. "The Battle of Kepler Station," Marcus said, his voice taking on a distant quality as he recalled the engagement from 3 weeks prior. "We lost 43 crew members in that fight. The Dominion forces were using civilian shields, hiding behind refugee transports they had captured." Lisa's jaw tightened. She remembered the battle, remembered the impossible choice they had faced. "Most species would have withdrawn," Marcus continued, pulling off his tactical gloves. "They would have called for reinforcements, waited for a better opportunity, preserved their forces. That's the logical choice, the civilized choice." Janet knew what was coming next. She had been on the bridge during that engagement, had watched in fascination and horror as the human captain had done the unthinkable. "Instead, we went in anyway," Marcus said. "We accepted losses that any sane commander would have avoided. We pushed through enemy fire, took casualties that made the rest of the fleet question our sanity, and we saved 8,000 civilians." The silence that followed was deafening. Lisa's silver eyes had lost some of their certainty, while Janet found herself studying the human with new understanding. "You're right, Commander," Marcus said, finally looking directly at Lisa. "Humans are different. We don't fight wars the way the rest of the galaxy fights wars. We don't accept acceptable losses when unacceptable losses might save more lives. We don't make the smart choice when the right choice is available." He gestured to the equipment he had removed, now lying on the deck like abandoned relics. "But that's what you're asking me to do. You want me to command this ship like any other species would. You want me to make the logical decisions, the safe decisions, the civilized decisions." Janet stepped closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "Captain, the commander didn't mean..." "She meant exactly what she said," Marcus interrupted gently. And she's not wrong to question whether humanity's way is the right way. Maybe the galaxy would be safer if we fought more like everyone else. Maybe fewer people would die. Lisa finally found her voice. Marcus, The thing is, he continued, walking toward the bridge exit, I can't do that. I can't command this ship knowing that my tactical restraint might cost civilian lives. I can't make the smart choice when the right choice is sitting there in front of me. He paused at the doorway, looking back at the two women who had become more than just fellow officers over the months of their shared service. So I'm removing myself from command, he said simply. Commander Hayes, the ship is yours. You can fight this war the way the rest of the galaxy thinks it should be fought. With logic, with restraint, with civilized tactics that don't require the kind of sacrifices that make other species uncomfortable. The door slid shut behind him with a soft hiss, leaving Lisa and Janet alone with the weight of what had just transpired. For several minutes, neither woman spoke. Finally, Janet broke the silence. Do you know what my people call humans? She asked softly. Lisa shook her head. The guardians who bleed, Janet replied. Because you're the only species we've ever encountered that willingly takes wounds to protect others. The only ones who choose to suffer so that strangers might live. Lisa stared at the door through which Marcus had departed, her mind racing through every engagement they had fought together, every impossible decision he had made that had somehow turned out to be exactly right. I need to find him, she said suddenly. Yes, Janet agreed. You do. But as Lisa moved toward the door, they both wondered if some words once spoken could ever truly be taken back, and whether a human's willingness to sacrifice might extend to sacrificing his own pride for the sake of those who no longer trusted his judgment. The armor remained on the deck, abandoned but somehow still carrying the weight of every decision its wearer had ever made.